Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're sticking to my sort of home county here, Skåne, in the south of the country. And for this review we're going to return to one of my very local breweries who have been getting very prolific recently, and I've been quite impressed with their recent efforts. So for this one we are going to head back to Eslöv, and we're having a taste of another beer from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. This one is the Laisy Hazy DIPA, which comes in at 7.8%, and if memory serves me correctly, this one was released on the 1st of October 2019 through the local and small assortment things that Systembolaget do at the start of every month. So very curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer from these guys. I've noticed that they're getting a little bit more prolific in recent times, of course, and they're trying different styles too. They very recently released a Dubbel, which I'll need to have a little look at. I'm sure there's been a good few kind of New England style IPAs recently, and they also did a sort of Doppelbock, although it was more like a Maibock in my opinion, along with OO Brewing from Gothenburg. So this is a brewery that seems to be on the rise, and like I say, one of my local ones here down in Skåne. So keep an eye on what they're doing, actually, doing some interesting stuff. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri before. No doubt I'll add more to that in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, as I've told you many a time, are based on a farm just outside of Eslöv to the north of Lund, where I stay. But they've been brewing here since the winter-autumn of 2014, and it was in January of 2015 that they started selling their beers in Systembolaget. So the owner and founder of this company is Håkan Nilsson, and together with his wife Michelle, they started their plan for a brewery a couple of years back, and the brewery is located on the family farm. Håkan is apparently the 5th generation of his family to work here on the countryside of Skåne, and the name Gård, of course, you'll find that in Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, and that literally translates into English as farm. So this is basically the Remmarlöv farm brewery, if you want to translate the name fully. But the old barn on the farm was renovated, and a brew house of 1,500 litres was installed. Hampus Olofsson was hired as a brewer in August of 2014, having previously worked for Malmö Brewing Company before that, which is another very good Skånsk brewery. I really wish they would can their beers. But over the last few years they've been gradually expanding their capacity. They now have a 3,000 litre brew kit, and they invested in new fermentation tanks in the spring of 2018, which takes their capacity up to a possible 800,000 litres. In 2019 they also opened up their brewery with a summer pub, which opens up every Wednesday, so hopefully next summer I can go out there and have a little look at that. But like I said, a really interesting little brewery, this one. As I say, they've been getting more and more prolific in recent times, and a lot of New England IPAs coming out from them now, and other different styles as well. When I first kind of noticed these guys, I forget which beer it was that I reviewed as the very first one, but their Imperial Reds, the Red Carol and the Red Slope and things like that, those were always really quite interesting beers. So yeah, an interesting one this. They're also noted for having using local hops in a lot of their beers too, because there is one of the little hop gardens nearby that seems to be expanding year on year too. So that's another very cool thing about this brewery, to show off the local hops that are available here in the south of Sweden. So yeah, if you're interested in Skånsk beer, Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri is a pretty interesting one to go for at the start. And of course you've got ones like Brewski, you've got Malmö Brewing Company, and there's a good few others kind of based over here now as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at the brewery. And you can also look at beernews.se, and if you're interested in all the different beers that they've done, I would recommend that you have a little look at the rate beer and Untappd pages for this brewery as well. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. You can see it's pretty much the same kind of standard artwork that you'll normally find from Remmarlöv. I like how it kind of goes together. For some reason though, this label it didn't stick very well to the can for some reason. But since I've taken it out of the fridge, actually, it seems to have stuck a bit more closely. You could take the thing off earlier. But yeah, a little 330ml can. This one, it says the serving temperature should be between 6 and 9 degrees, and I'm guessing it will be pretty much bang on that now because it's been out of the fridge for about 15 minutes. But yeah, best before the before September of 2020, although of course when it's an IPA the hops are probably only good for about 2 months or so, or 3 months maybe at a push. But yeah, nice looking beer this one, nicely presented, kind of the standard thing you would expect from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. So let's get it out, we'll get on with the tasting. Like I said, a 7.8% New England double IPA, double dry hopped, and this came out as part of the local and small assortments on the 1st of October 2019. So yeah. Is there sediment on the bottom of the can? No, there's not. Interesting. So yeah, as you can see, this beer, it is a little bit hazy, but it's not the most hazy of New England doubles that you're going to come across. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see there is a degree of haze to this one. If I put the light through it, it's a lovely kind of bright yellow colour. There's a solid quarter finger of a frothy, I would say white creamy head, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass on this one, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head, but not very much in the way of visible carbonation on this one. You can just see a few little bubbles heading up towards there, and 1 or 2 just sitting at the bottom. Now you can smell some lovely juicy fruity notes coming off this beer as well, but we'll look at that in a minute. But as you can see, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. You know, pretty much as you would expect for a kind of New England hazy double IPA, but not the haziest of the hazy that you're going to find within this style category. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh, that smells big and boozy. It's 7.8% as well. You know, it's not the booziest of double IPAs that you're going to come across, stating the obvious there. But I mean, I've always found when it comes to the New Englands, I think it's difficult to go above 8% without it feeling like overly boozy. So 7.8% I think is quite a reasonable thing there. I mean, unless you're going to add a little bit of caramel or something in there to, you know, blend in the boozy flavours, I have to admit, if I was brewing a New England double, I probably wouldn't want to go above 8%, to be honest. If I wanted to go higher than that, I would move over to the West Coast. But yeah, this is a lovely smelling beer, this one. I mean, in the malt base, you can definitely smell you can smell some of the nice oaty creaminess coming out of this one. There's a good bit of a kind of white bready, wheaty quality to the beer as well. A little bit of biscuity note too. It's almost got a little bit of that kind of McVitie's, you know, the McVitie's digestive biscuity syrup type thing. So I mean, fairly kind of standard sort of malt base on this one for the style, if you like. And I mean, it's quite similar to the Daisy in terms of its aroma, I think, although I think personally that this one might be a little bit closer in terms of you know, aroma profile to the shiny hyped can that they did with Malmö Taproom. Actually, I think that's probably closer to where this beer actually is on the smell spectrum. But yeah, the malt base comes across quite nicely, and you can tell just with the prominence of that biscuity note, that tells you that there's a little bit of booze in this beer. So yeah, it is quite a malty smelling New England IPA, this one, but at the same time you've got some nice kind of oily fruity qualities to it as well. On the green side of the hops, I would say this one, it has very little floral character, to be honest, which is quite surprising. It says it's double dry hopped, and I would have expected a good bit more floral character out of it, but it's actually more grassy in terms of the green side of the hops there, which is quite nice. So yeah, quite a grassy one, this. And if you take the nose in fairness, if you do take the nose in quite deeply, you will pick out a little bit of a nice big kind of floral aromaticity to the beer, but there's a good bit of juicy fruit in there. You've got a little bit of a kind of stronger passion fruit, I think, some nice mangoes, but when you're further away from the beer, if you waft it like this, you are going to get some kind of lighter fruits in there as well, you know, like papayas. I'm not sure about pineapple, papayas, apricots. I don't know if there's a little touch of orange to this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's mosaic in this beer, I'll say that, because It's got a nice little bit of a tangerine orangey note to it, and you're also getting like a little bit of a kind of pineapple-y quality in there as well, which can sometimes come out from Mosaic. I always found that Mosaic was, you know, tangerine oranges, a little bit of blueberry sometimes, and also a little bit of pineapple. It could be something like Simcoe or Galaxy, because there is a little bit of a passion fruity note to this one, as I said. Either that or it could be Citra. So I don't think I don't think it would be any others, but it is possible, of course. I mean, you've got things like Idaho 7 now, which will give you similar aromas to, you know, like a mix of Citra and, it'll give you the same kind of aromas as Citra and other things like that. There's a good number of hops out there just now, so it's quite it's quite difficult actually to identify, to play guess the hops with some of these beer now, because there are so many things. I mean, Sabro is another one that I remember is quite similar, so there could be a little bit of Sabro, and they did use Sabro in the, was it in the Daisy that they used that? So it could be Sabro that's giving you this as well. Be quite cool actually. That's one of the things that I would like about breweries, because, you know, as a drinker and as a reviewer, you want to always learn more about new hops and things like that. But then again, I can see the argument that it would take away from the surprise of the beer. But I think, in fairness, in terms of aroma, this one comes across as being quite malty, but also quite, it's got a good balance between being juicy and oily in terms of its fruity quality as well. And on the green side of things, it is more of a sort of grassy New England IPA, if you like. But it's a nice aroma, this one. Lovely juicy tropical fruits, a little bit of tangerine orange in there as well. So you will enjoy the aroma. This, again, nothing overly surprising about it when you consider what style it is. So let's just have a look at this beer then and see how we get on. This one is the Laisy Hazy Double IPA, coming in at 7.8% from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri in Eslöv, just a little bit to the north of me here in Lund in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slanche, skål. That's pretty nice. I mean, what I'll say about this, first impressions of this beer, is that it's stupidly drinkable for a beer that's 7.8%. That's dangerous. It's not the, it's quite a, is it possible to say this is quite a sessionable double IPA? You know, it's quite, the thing with this one is it's quite wet and quite light in its mouthfeel. In fairness, you would expect a New England to be a bit thicker than this beer is. And I mean, it has all the flavour that you'd expect, but you do expect the mouthfeel to be a little bit kind of thicker with this beer style. But it's nice. I mean, I like how the flavour profile on this one goes together, but I would want just a little bit more kind of thickness in the mouthfeel. But the malt base, this one's definitely one of these ones where it's all about how the flavours kind of blend together, if you like. It's not like really fruity and juicy, and it's not like really creamy and malty, if you like. It's just all about, it's one of these beers that's very, very well balanced, rather than being too punchy in any one regard. And yeah, it really comes across as quite sort of sessionable. It's kind of, I mean, I was thinking from the aroma this one would be more, it would be more kind of along the same lines. I was thinking it would be more along the same lines as the Shiny Hyped Can, but it is actually quite like the Daisy, and I'm sure I said the Daisy was kind of like that too. It was quite sessionable and sort of easy drinking, if you like. So yeah, this one again kind of fits into that category. At 7.8%, it's a very easy drinking beer, this. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour profile of the beer then. So with this one, you can feel that nice white bready wheaty quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel a little bit of the oaty creaminess kind of pushing its way out of this one. But like I say, I think the white bready base of this beer and the oats, they don't feel kind of thick actually. They don't feel all that thick. And I mean, you can see that with this beer. It's not the haziest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across, and as far as I can see, just looking into the can, there's not really any real sediment to this one. So that's one of the things. I don't know if they would have filtered this beer a little bit, or if they've maybe just or what the amount of wheat or oat that they've actually used in the beer, but it should be a little bit kind of thicker than this, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's an interesting point to make about this one. The malt base is nice and it's got a nice flavour to it, but it's just not quite thick enough for the style, I think. If you go into the very centre of your palate, it's a little bit more kind of, how do you say, it's a little bit more sort of biscuity and sweet, and that's where you're kind of getting some of the boozy notes out of the beer as well. You can feel a little bit of the booziness in this one, but it's quite a nice... I mean, there's nothing wrong with the flavour profile of this, but you might just want this beer to be that little bit thicker. Although, in fairness, I have noticed that in... it kind of is a hit and a miss. Some of the Swedish breweries with the New England IPAs, they do brew them with this sort of light, drinkable quality to them, which is interesting. So I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but I think this beer, if it did just feel a little bit thicker in the mouthfeel, it would just take up a notch. But there's nothing wrong with it. That's the thing. But yeah, the way the malt base goes together is quite nice. It is quite smooth and it does have a good little bit of flavour. I just think a bit of thickness there would really take this beer up a notch. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, on the back corners of the palate you've got a little touch of earthiness there. But it's not quite as strong as I would expect from Mosaic, so now I'm wondering if my prediction of Mosaic in this beer was wrong. But as you come further forward from that, it smooths out a little bit. You do get a little touch of a floral aromaticity with this beer on the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just that little bit lighter and grassy in my mind. Although it feels, the hoppy quality in this beer feels very, very light actually. I think probably they've not added too much in the way of a bittering hop to this, because there's very little, you can tell with this beer, there's very little IBU coming out of this one. But if you go behind the front curve of the palate, you can feel that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to roll their way out of the beer, and that's the kind of most complex part of this beer, I would think. Yeah, so for me, if you go to the back of that oily bubble, there's maybe a little teeny bit of a passion fruit. As you kind of come further forward, it gets more mango-y, and there's a bit of apricot and sort of pineapple-y flavour coming out of this one. Coming a little bit further forward from that, I do think there is a little touch of a kind of tangerine-y orange. I mean, it could be like a Zaka or something that's in here actually, when you've got that pineapple-y and orangey quality as well, and some of the mango notes, that could be a Zaka, right enough. But you've got things, as I say, you've got things like Sabro, Idaho 7 and all these other hops that that are going around the place now. But if you come further forward on the tongue, it's a little bit tangerine-y and orangey. In the very centre, if you just go to the very tip of your tongue and into the centre, there is a teeny little touch of a sort of blueberry-ish quality, and that is still making me think there might be Mosaic in here. Like I always say, it's good fun to play guess the hops in these beers, but I think mainly mangoes, like apricots and things like that coming out of the aroma, but also a little bit of a sort of tangerine-y orange in there as well, which is interesting. But I mean, overall in terms of flavour profile, this one has all the types of flavours that you would expect from this style. It's just, I think it just needs a slightly thicker mouthfeel, a little bit more oaty kind of creaminess, and a bit of a thicker wheaty bready quality to the beer as well. But as it stands, it's a nice drinkable sort of hazy IPA, this one. Not the haziest of the hazy, but definitely an interesting one to try. And as I say, it's cool to see this brewery trying a few kind of different things, if you like. So yeah, flavour profile, a nice beer, but I think just, as I say, a little bit thicker would, pardon me, put this beer up a little notch. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say that this beer is quite mid-bodied. Yeah, at the bottom end for mid-bodied. It's quite, for the style that it is one of the thinner New England IPAs that you're going to come across. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel is balanced between being wet and oily. It doesn't, as I say, it needs a bit more creaminess to it. The malt base is very smooth in this one with a little bit of sweetness. In terms of IBUs, I'd be surprised if you're getting like 15 IBUs out of this beer, to be honest with you. I think the hops in this beer have been added very late in the boil and have been mainly contributing to flavour and aroma rather than some things being added on early to give you a little bit of bitterness. I don't, you know, there's almost no bitterness on the edge of the tongue. As I say, I'd be surprised if you get 15 IBUs out of this beer. But yeah, a little bit of bitterness to it and some nice kind of oily, juicy fruits as well. So overall, it's quite an interesting beer, this one. The flavours blend together really well, but it just needs a little bit more thickness to the mouthfeel, I think. But I think they really could be onto a winner if they just put a bit more oat and just let the oats and the wheat thicken up the beer a little bit. I think they really would be onto a winner with that, and you know, that would affect the malty base of the beer as well a little bit, which would be kind of interesting. Put a little bit more bittering hop in it maybe too, would be kind of interesting as well. But overall, it's another solid beer from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, but I don't think it's quite the same level as the shiny hyped can that they did a couple of months back. Actually, I think that's probably the best New England IPA that they've done so far. So yeah, this one, as I say, released as part of the local and small assortments in October of 2019. An interesting beer. Just needs to be a bit thicker. I've said that a few times now, but we'll leave it at that for this one. So yeah, I'll need to try the Double that these guys have done, and I'm sure they've got more beers coming out for Christmas and things too, so I'll need to see if there's any more different ones coming out there. But the beers I would recommend from these guys, the Sweet Hoof, their milk stout is really nice. The Red Slope and the Red Carol, their two Christmas beers, are very good, and the Shiny Hyped Can, as I say, is probably the best IPA that I've had from these guys. I need to try the Fenton and the Genius. Those have been floating around for a while, and I've just never got around to reviewing them. But a really nice little Skånsk brewery, this one, so if you get the chance to check out some of their beers, I highly recommend that you do. But let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Laisy Hazy Double IPA, coming in at 7.8% from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, just outside of Eslöv here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. So thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri as well, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys at some point in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media, and make sure you check out Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. Slanje, skål!